workshop. Got it. Okay. No, you're good. And so, yeah, I wanted to start by kind of just getting us all thinking about why we maybe moved to a new city. Um, so it can be really helpful to kind of remember your purpose when you're feeling a little bit lost or feeling like this was a mistake, and to kind of just give like a overall view. So think about what brought you here. Maybe it was specifically, I'm assuming if you're in Charleston, but you could be in any other city, specifically wanting to be in this city, or maybe it was a job, or maybe it was something related to family. Um, but something has brought you here, and you were probably hoping to get something from this experience. And you may have already faced some challenges and had some triumphs. And so take a minute to just kind of think about what those things might be, and to just think about what your journey has been like so far to kind of ground you as we move through the rest of this. And then think of maybe what some of your goals are now after you've already moved. Things might have changed. You might have thought that your biggest struggle would be one thing and that hasn't been a problem at all, but now there's something else that you're trying to figure out. So hopefully y'all are just kind of getting some thoughts stewing. But I wanted to kind of start this presentation by sharing some tips from two people that I consider kind of experts in this topic. So I have two friends that are actually twin sisters that had taken the leap of faith several times in their 20s, moving to new cities for either job or graduate school, or just wanting to do something totally different. So they went from Tampa to Memphis to Knoxville to Dallas, and they split up within those times as well, and kind of came back together. But that was also a big change as twins to move to totally new cities that are separate from each other and do that without each other. So they got so much out of that experience, but it was also challenging. So I asked them for some of their advice on what they would tell someone moving to a new city, just to get some what I consider like expert advice from people that have done it very well. They helped me move through my transition to Knoxville by helping me come up with different things to do and just how to meet new people and get out and about. So they recommended just really exploring the city at first to find the areas or neighborhoods that you feel like you connect with the most, that you might match the vibe. And then kind of regularly going there, as well as like if in your old city you had something that was like a safe space for you, like a gym or a coffee shop, finding that here to kind of have like an easier transition of just having some safety or comfort of like, okay, in my old city I had this gym and now I go to one here. The other thing they said is to please be realistic with your expectations and the time it takes to establish yourself. It is not easy moving, and it takes a lot of time to build the community or build the connections that you want. It usually takes like a whole year to kind of feel like you're more established. And they also recommended taking advantage of the city. So lots of cities have farmers market, have free community concerts. They all have like their unique culture and identity. And so embracing what your city has to offer is something else they recommended, which we will actually talk a lot more about throughout this, but I just want to start with some of their tips. All right. And so we're centering this around wellness. So the idea of wellness is that it's like an active process of building your best lifestyle. And so you can see here, we've got the 8 dimensions of wellness. So you can kind of consider this like a wheel of different proportions, and you probably want them to all be balanced. So you can take a minute to kind of think about each of these dimensions and consider maybe which ones you have a lot of and maybe ones you don't have much of. So maybe social and occupational are taking up everything. Work and friends are taking up everything, and it feels like the rest is very small and you're maybe not tending to yourself in other ways. Or it could be totally different. Maybe your social feels really small, or your financial feels really small, but your physical feels great. You're taking care of your body. I don't know. Just
And I
Yes.
will say that we are recording this, so don't feel like you have to like take a bunch of crazy notes. If you want to have the recording and also the slides, just drop your email address in the chat to either me or Etta, and we'll get you the slides and the recording afterwards. So that way you can kind of be present with it. Of course, take notes if you want, but I wanted to let you know that that's an option.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, consider maybe like which of these you feel like you have a lot of, and maybe ones that you have less of as we go through each of the slides. I'm going to be giving tons and tons of like thoughts and recommendations. You know, definitely don't need to do all of them. Just kind of consider maybe where you feel like you're lacking and where you could maybe use more of. But we also wanted to use this wellness model for this presentation because one, it will support your mental health. So wellness helps with anxiety, with depression, with other mental health symptoms. It helps to keep them at bay, but it also helps you learn yourself better, and it helps you come up with all kinds of ways to explore and embrace your new city. So we're going to start with social, and pretty much all of the other dimensions that we go through will also address ideas for social. So like when we go through physical, we can talk about how you can do that with friends as well. But we're going to start here. And so we're also going to try to not lean in to going out and drinking, getting on dating apps, or getting a pet to fill this area of wellness. Not that any of those things are bad. I got my dog Scooby and when I was 22 and in a pit of despair, and he's amazing, but I also did not train him very well, and now I've got a lot of problems that I'm dealing with. So there's consequences that can come up from some of these things, and things like always going out and drinking to fill your social wheel, or going to dating apps. Not that that's a bad thing, but they also can lead to more anxiety. So we're just gonna kind of encourage some other ways to fill this social wheel, because those are kind of like the easiest fixes, and sometimes they can bring some more anxiety. But one thing is always
I
saying
wanted to
yes.
say, I think
Yeah.
I love that you're bringing that up, Etta, because Charleston is known as a drinking town, I think, by a lot of people. And so that often is the really easy one to do. But what you're saying is just be conscious of that and don't necessarily depend on one of those three things as like a distraction or easy fix, because sometimes they have other repercussions that we're not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing to building your social wellness when you first move to a new city is saying yes as much as you can for people asking you to do things. Maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's one person you met that says, hey, we should go get coffee one time or go get a drink. I know I just said we're not going to lean towards that, but trying to say yes and also following up, because usually it takes like actually about 3 tries to maybe get something to stick. Someone kind of floats something, we should do this, and it's vague, and then you kind of say yeah, but nothing really happens. It kind of takes like coming up with a specific plan and following up if it doesn't work the first time or even the second time. But there's lots and lots of other things that you can do that we'll go through, but just a couple of the first ideas we have are going to the movies. I don't know if y'all been to the Terrace Theater. It's a great theater. I go there all the time. They play new movies, old movies, independent films, concerts. You can go see the Taylor Swift. Well, it's not there anymore. Now you can go see the Beyonce concert there. They're playing Love Actually for 1 week only. There's all kinds of stuff going on there, as well as the farmers market, like we already mentioned. I always say that's like an instant serotonin boost. You get to be outside, get to be around a lot of people, see cool crafts, see cool things. And that's a great thing to ask a friend to go to as well. But like I said, as we move through every other area of wellness, we'll come up with more things that you can do with other people. So, all right, physical. So the great thing about physical wellness is that one, it can help reduce your anxiety and depression. It releases endorphins. It helps to move out a lot of difficult emotions. It helps to reduce your symptoms. So it's great. you can engage in physical wellness in a million different ways. You can go on walks, you can go do hard workouts at the gym, you can do yoga. There's all kinds of things. It also gets you out of the house and it can build community. So if you do find like a specific gym that you go to or specific workout studio and you continue to go there on a consistent basis, you're going to run into the same people and have more of an opportunity to build relationships with them. As well as it's a great thing to ask someone to do. A new friend, you can say, hey, do you want to go to, I'm just going to say yoga because that's what I do. Do you want to go to this yoga class on Saturday? We can get a smoothie afterwards. So one, you don't have to talk the whole time and it gives you something to talk about afterwards. You can talk about how hard the class was or whatever. It kind of gives you like an opening as well. And you're going to feel good about it. It also helps to improve your self-esteem if you're feeling kind of lost and like, moving into a new city, feeling kind of lost and like you don't, have like your sense of self, just being impressed by your body and what you can do can help give you some more of that empowerment. So yeah, there's lots of ways that the physical wellness can support you emotionally, physically, and socially.
One of my favorite ones with the physical is riding bikes downtown. Like getting to know your city like through riding bikes is a really fun way.
Yeah, I love that. You also get to explore things. That's great. So another area of wellness is spiritual. And so this looks very different for a lot of people, but really it's more about kind of just finding your peace with yourself, with your environment, with your universe. So a lot of people embrace spiritual wellness by gardening or being out in nature, by meditating or doing mindfulness activities, and also more traditionally going to a church or finding a religious group. A lot of people find a lot of community in doing that, and it's a great way to build relationships, especially if that's a common interest. And then other ways you can do your spiritual wellness are expressing gratitude through a gratitude journal. We just put up this wall hanging that fell last night, and we were a little bit nervous that it might fall during this, and it did, but we're good. But anyway, one more thing is if you do kind of find a workout studio or gym that you like, they often host their own special classes that are related to gratitude or mindfulness. Again, I go to a yoga studio, they have like a sound healing class on Saturdays. They do a specific gratitude class. So there's different ways that different gyms engage in kind of like a group activity to find some spiritual solitude and peace as well. So financial, this can be a very tricky one, but if we're always feeling like our finances are kind of bottoming out or we're on E, it's hard to like feel stable and like we're able to tap into a lot of the other areas of wellness. And so I put in here, when in doubt, cut out Uber Eats, because one, the fees are just crazy. And two, it also keeps you from getting out of the house and going to do something or cooking or making something yourself. So, I mean, I'm actually a terrible cook, like bad, but I love the act of actually putting something together. It helps me feel accomplished, it helps me connect with myself, playing some music while I do it. Those are great ways to also improve your wellness and feel just more connected with yourself, and it saves money. If you don't have a roommate, maybe you should consider having a roommate. That cuts a lot of finances in half. And also y'all can split things, like if you want to do dinners together, you can buy the groceries together and kind of have some more connection between you and your roommates and also save some money. And so Charleston, like we said, is known for, kind of being a party city and having all these amazing restaurants, which is so great, but it's also very, very, very expensive. So some of these other ideas that we're throwing out there can also help you save money. Consider, like we talked about going to the movies. Yes, that does cost money, but it still might be cheaper than an espresso martini. So, and it lasts a lot longer. So it's also maybe saving your finances a little bit. And again, taking advantage of the city you live in. So We live in Charleston. There's multiple beaches around here, lots of parks, a beautiful downtown. You can just walk out the door and not pay anything to see amazing things. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're trying to figure out how to save money while living in a pretty expensive city. All right. So like we said, this is a really tough transition. Moving to a new place can be so fun, so exciting. There's so much to get out of it, so much to explore, so much to learn about yourself, but that can also be really hard. And in fact, it's supposed to be hard. The first year, like we said, it's going to take a while to build things up. But also, whenever you do have transitions or maybe move away from home and move away from your comfort zone, sometimes your anxiety and depression may increase. Maybe you've never had it before and you have it now, or maybe even some past traumas or things that you hadn't processed at another location now that you're in a new space are starting to come up. So those are lots of things that you probably also weren't prepared for on this move, which is why we definitely recommend therapy to help transition through that. But if that's not something that you're interested in, you can, there's other coping skills you can use to try to help you process things emotionally. Journaling is a great way to get things out. Calling a trusted friend or family member and being honest about kind of how things are going. It's okay to tell people it's hard and you don't have to say it's great all the time. And if you need to cry, cry. It's okay to kind of let some of those things out. And bringing it back to the social piece while you're making friends or meeting new people, you can fill your emotional wellness by actually really getting to know these people and letting them get to know you and kind of taking things to a deeper level to help fill both of these. So this one's really fun. Yeah, Landry.
I was gonna say on the previous slide that letting people know even if it's hard. I think that can be really hard sometimes because I know, sometimes when you move away and if it's really tough or like way tougher than you expected, sometimes it's hard to admit that because you don't want people to think like, well, I told you so. I told you not to go, or, a lot of times family doesn't like when you're moving away or something like that. So you don't want to feel like, oh, I failed, but it just is a normal part. Like it being hard is just a normal part and a part to be expected. It doesn't mean you made the wrong decision or that you failed or anything like that. So I think that can kind of keep you from being, as honest as you might be with people.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like creative, this one's really fun. So creative wellness is really awesome because it helps with self-expression. It also helps with some emotional coping. It helps with just kind of working your brain in different ways. And even at the end of it, kind of making you feel a little bit more like yourself because you're building something and you're creating something from you. But there's like tons and tons and tons of ways to be creative. This is probably our longest list, and there's so much more that you can add on. But it could be writing, it could be journaling, poetry. Obviously, art is kind of what people most think of, whether it's drawing or painting or coloring. But also things like baking. That is how a lot of people are creative, following a recipe, but also having your own spin on it, and really building things and creating things gives a lot of sense of accomplishment, sense of self, but maybe without the stress of like creating something through work or meeting deadlines. It's for you and only you, which is what makes it so special. But like decorating cookies over the holidays, that's something that's fun, it's creative, and it's also something you can invite some friends over to do together. Like, so these are things that you can do alone or you can do with others to connect. Hey, I have some art supplies if you want to come over and we can do some watercolor, things like that. Again, it gives you something to do, but it's also feeding you. Landry told me about improv classes being something that she knows that people love and get a lot out of. I don't know if you want to speak to that.
I've actually had a therapy client recently telling me about trying improv classes and how really life-changing it's been. And so I was like, I want more people to experience this. She said it's totally changed how she has seen relationships and the way she thinks about things. Anyway, so I'm learning more about the benefits therapeutically and just emotionally and mentally, some of the benefits of acting and drama and that type of creativity. So I wanted to include that too.
Yeah, I love it. See, it's just another way that there's so many ways to embrace your creative wellness. Like the list goes on and on. I put build ... because you can build anything. Even Legos, like people love having the like set Legos where it has instructions and everything, or having just like a box and you can just create anything. I've someone that we're close with recently has gotten really into building Legos, and they love it. So there's all different kinds of things you can do. Which this is a little bit similar. We've got intellectual wellness, which is just stimulating your mind more. You may or may not get this from work. You may get this too much from work. So this is kind of making it more fun for you, and just getting your brain active. So that could be reading. I personally love to read, but also sometimes I just like don't have the like capacity to do it, but I still want that intellectual stimulation. Puzzles are great. It's also fun to do with someone else. It's fun to do with yourself. I went through a big phase where I would listen to a podcast and work on a puzzle like a few nights out of the week, and that was awesome. I felt like I was getting so much out of that. And also exploring your interests. Maybe you love makeup, maybe you love movies, maybe you love music, and like researching your favorite artists, getting to know about them. It's cool to learn about the things that you love. And so we live in Charleston, and but every city has their own history, has their own culture, has their own past. Charleston certainly has a lot of history, good and bad. So there's a lot to explore, a lot to learn about. There's tons of museums, tons of exhibits you can go to. And again, they might cost a little bit of money, but it's still probably less expensive than an espresso martini. So again, like things might still be saving you some money. But yeah, there's just tons of ways that you can explore your intellectual wellness, and it also can help you get to know yourself better and get to know your interests, and can be talking points for getting to know people. So yeah, let's see. And I think this is our last one. So this is
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, I'm always coming in at the very end. But for intellectual, I wanted to I don't know if anyone here today is coming here through Meetup, but meetup.com also has a ton of educational meetups as well, like virtual. There will be some about like, I don't know, different topics, history meetups and all these different topics. So that's a free way of you know, broadening your knowledge base.
Yeah. Okay, so this is your last one, is occupational. So maybe you made the move because of a new job, or maybe the job is the means to an end to move to the new city. You wanted to move somewhere and you got a job in that place. Regardless, we want to come up with the ways to get something out of work. It can just be a means to an end, but there also might be some ways that it's feeding you, helping you feel your sense of accomplishment, and helping you maybe feel like your best self. So if you hate your job, but you're kind of stuck in it for a while, it's still coming up with things that you're maybe getting from it. So some questions to ask yourself are like, what did you want out of this job when you moved here? Was it something on a stepping ladder? Was it something, or maybe it's school, right? You could be in graduate school. I don't know. But what were you hoping to get out of this, and what skills might you be getting, even if this is something temporary? But if you love your job, that's great. But is it taking up a little bit too much of your time? Do you have boundaries around work? Occupational wellness is something that can very easily slip into all the other areas of wellness and really take away from your capacity to give into this. So it's really important to consider your boundaries around work and to try to find your sense of purpose in your work, even if it's not, your dream job. What are some of the things that you're getting out of it?
Talking about looking at all of the wheel of wellness as sort of like a pie chart, and like which one's taking up maybe more, which one needs maybe more attention, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And we can kind of circle back to that too at the end, to just kind of take a minute to kind of think about where you are now and where you want to be and how maybe you can make some changes. But you can also use work as a way to meet new people, to build connections, to build friendships through networking. There's tons of networking events in Charleston that you can go to, or maybe your job already kind of leans into doing some networking, so again, it's another way that you can build that social wellness and to create connections in a new city. Okay. So like we said, we just kind of wanted to hit these major points about the presentation and about your move. So knowing that, again, it's going to be tough and just validating that there's so many wonderful things about moving to a new place, but it takes time. It takes time to build connections. It takes time to feel really comfortable, to feel like you know your way, know your path, and to open yourself up to trying new things. So with the wellness wheel, we can go all the way back. Okay, there we go. Yes, so here it looks kind of more like a plate with like different portions, let's say of food on it. Maybe it's your Thanksgiving plate. So you can think about it if it's like, okay, it's all occupational and physical. That's taking up everything. And yes, I love mashed potatoes and mac and cheese, but I also need some turkey and green beans to kind of feel more balanced or get more out of it. That's kind of a silly example, but I feel like it makes more sense than trying to show you a pie chart that I don't have right now. So think about where you have maybe stuff in excess and where you need more, and then use that as your guide for kind of where you need to add stuff in and the other areas that you want to explore. And in turn, this will also help improve your mental health. Wellness is a model for putting mental health at ease and to reduce illness, reduce physical and mental health diseases. So it's a very holistic approach that can support your lifestyle for a long time. And the more you embrace this stuff now, it helps you later in life.
I'm thinking even to just how these relate to each other, like when in the past, when I've been under like maybe financial stress, how that affects the rest of the wheel, or how that affects me emotionally or spiritually, or, these sort of like play off of each other in some ways. Like being healthy in one way probably makes it easier to be healthy in some of these, or well in some of these other areas. Whereas if there's some like dysfunction or unhealth in some areas, that can make it easier to be unhealthy in the other areas too. I feel like it kind of.
Absolutely. Feeding one is a lot of times feeding others, and being depleted in one depletes from others. And I wish like life was super easy and, it's like a one-shot fix, but it's an active process to take care of yourself. It's not something you do for a week or a day and then you're better. It's something that you have to commit to consistently to build yourself up the way that you want to and create the lifestyle that you want. But I think that's most of what we have. We absolutely can email these slides and this recording. But we also, I think we'll open up if anyone has any questions or any input.
Yeah, I will stop the recording in just a moment, but I wanted to let you know that if you, that we have a newsletter that goes out weekly. And next week's newsletter is actually going to have a list of 50 ideas of things to do and explore Charleston. If you're interested in being on the newsletter, you're more than welcome to, or if you want to be on the newsletter just long enough to get that list, you're welcome to do that too. It won't hurt my feelings. So you can shoot me my email address, or you can email Etta and get the slides and recording, and we can add you to the newsletter through that as well. But I'll go ahead and stop the recording so that we can open up for question and answer.